We are now going to discuss some additional types of malware, including spyware, adware, and ransomware. Let's start with spyware. So spyware is malware that collects information from your PC without consent. So it hides inside your system and collects different types of information. Perhaps the type of information that they're more interested in are internet browsing habits. They want to know which websites you visit, what are the things that you buy online. They can also steal credentials. They can take screenshots. One of the primary beneficiaries of spyware are attackers who are interested in collecting this information and then either using it themselves or reselling it. We also sometimes have marketing companies who are interested in this information because if they know your browsing habits, your shopping patterns, they can do more customized, more targeted marketing campaigns. Spyware comes in different flavors. So for example, we have browser session hijackers, which basically modify user browser settings. They change your web page and they redirect you to advertisement pages when you try to browse the internet. We also have spyware which affects cookies. Now, cookies are small files which are stored on your system. Whenever you visit a website, that website generates a cookie with the specific ID and stores it on your system. Now this cookie is used to remember what are the different preferences you had, what are your login information, and so on. Let's say, for example, you visit amazon.com and then you browse different products. Now this information would be stored in the cookie. So the next time when you go to amazon.com, even if you haven't logged in, this cookie would be sent. Now this contains that ID, and the database has a backend which contains all of your previous history, and the web server would be able to know that it's you based on the cookie, and then it can load the preferences, show you preferred pages, and so on. Now this is again leveraged by spyware to steal information. We also have banking spyware, which targets banking applications specifically. They're interested in tracking your use of banking applications. They try to steal credit card information, bank account information, and so on. Then we have keyloggers, which basically log your keystrokes. And once this information has been captured, this information is exfiltrated to a remote malicious attacker. Next, we have adware. So adware is basically malware that bombards users with unwanted ads. So this is the malware which causes those pop-ups and banners on your system. Usually, adware comes bundled with legitimate software. So whenever you install a software, sometimes it contains adware, which also gets installed onto your system. Now, there are some indicators that your system has adware. So for example, it changes the home page of your browser. It redirects users to different websites. And it exploits add-on plugins and installs new plugins, which is often a telltale sign that you have spyware or adware. The main purpose of adware is revenue generation. So basically, they just bombard you with so many ads with the hope that some of those users are going to click through or follow through those ads, and this results in revenue generation for the creator of the adware. It usually exploits add-on plugins in web browsers. So how to protect against spyware and adware? So the basic safety tip is one which we already discussed. You should always avoid installing unknown software, or even if you're installing known and trusted software, you should always do it from a trusted source, not from unknown or untrusted sources. But we also have a technique which can perhaps easily remove spyware and adware from your system, which is basically you should always disable your browser extensions and then just go ahead and reset your browser. This basically means deleting all the history, deleting all your cookies and your temporary internet files and everything. So if you disable the extensions and you reset your browser completely, you have a good chance of removing spyware and adware without taking more invasive steps on your system. You can also use some specialized software such as Malwarebytes, which has been specially designed for removing spyware or adware from your system. But as the old saying goes, better safe than sorry. It's always better not to install suspicious softwares rather than trying to remove spyware and adware later on. So next is ransomware. So ransomware is financially motivated malware. It infects systems and networks, and they try to encrypt your important files and databases using their own key. Now basically every business, eventually it relies on the availability of information which it has stored in either files or databases. But if those things are encrypted and you don't have the decryption key, then this can seriously impact your business operations. So basically, once your data has been encrypted, the attackers, they demand money for unlocking the data or for providing you with the key. Now, data loss can occur due to encryption because you don't have the key to decrypt it. This can result in serious financial loss. It can also result in obviously reputational loss because you won't be able to service your clients. How to prevent ransomware? So you should be vigilant about indicators of compromise. So what happens is that if there is a strain of ransomware which is active and it is going around the world encrypting files of different organizations, then most likely this would be covered in public news, or we have specific websites which discuss these issues. And you should always add those indicators of compromise, which can be, for example, some ransomware, they generate particular type of messages, some ransomware, they originate from certain IP addresses and so on. So you should add those indicators of compromise to your security tools. Then we also have some websites which are specifically focused on ransomware. What they do is that they collect and they publish keys for well-known ransomware strains. So for example, we have nomoreransom.org and noransom.kaspersky.com. So if your company is hit by a strain of ransomware which is publicly known, then you can sometimes find decryption keys on these websites.